global PMOfficers global community, because thank you very much for joining us. Greetings from Barcelona, from all over the world. Good morning, good afternoon, good night, depending the time zone that you are watching us right now live, or by the other hand, will be recorded if you are watching us in our PMOfficers video channel or in the website from Daniel Zitter and his wonderful website from his business in Israel. And so thank you very much for joining us. Welcome again for the 5th and final season of webinar series, The Magic of PMO. This is the final, the 5th season. We have in our PMOfficers YouTube channel, more or less 100 videos talking about PMO, project management, and beyond. Anything topic that you are looking for, or do you like to learn or refresh about PMO and beyond, you will find this. We are talking about digital transformation, blockchain, RPA, Internet of Things, several topics, current topics about technology, but together with project management office, because we believe technology for 21st century requires management of 21st century. This is a very huge gap that we are watching day after day after day after day, not only in Spain, that we have some trouble about this. More than this, we are looking for, no, we are observing that in many countries around the globe have it's not exactly the same problems, but very similar problems. So our main goal is sharing information, sharing knowledge, like today, because Daniel Zitter is going to sharing. It's a very interesting topic, his knowledge and experiences, but you will see it. So I want to say thank you on behalf of PMOfficers Global Community, Daniel, and the rest of the team. Thank you very much for joining us, because we know that your agenda is pretty busy. So most welcome. Thank you for coming. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for having me here. So hi, everyone. My name is Daniel Zitter, as Leo introduced me. I'm a project management professional. I'm an industrial engineer. I started my career over 20 years ago in the project management industry, started working for Intel sites in Israel and then in the US. After a few years in the US and different sites that I was involved in some projects, then came back to Israel and started going through different organizations, helping them set up PMOs, managing projects on my own, setting up project management tools, project management offices. Then I started teaching project management. And then 10 years ago, I decided, together with my partner today, Chamutal Weiss, to open up our company, PM Zone. And we did that as a company based here in Israel for project management consulting. And the first project that we did together was writing the book. You can see the book over here. It's called Being a Project Manager. It's a different kind of book about project management that talks more about what it is to be a project manager, less about what project management is. So it's very practical and talks to the point. And all of our training that we've done since we wrote the book has been based on the book. So we're very focused on practical things. So today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about my experiences with people turning to me and saying, the first thing they come up and say, I want to learn more about project management. So I want a project management course. So this could be both an individual that comes up and asks me about this or wants a project management course, but it could also be a PMO. So the PMO says, I need a project management course within my organization. So these are the different kind of personas that come to me and ask me this question. And the question is, the question that I ask back is, what are you guys really trying to achieve? So what do you mean when you say you want a course? Do you want to find a better job? Are you trying to improve yourself to do your job better? So these are all things that you kind of need to ask yourself before you try to gain more knowledge, okay? So what we came up with from Tal and myself at PM Zone was something that we talk about is the lifelong learning. We're not just talking about a course, because we don't believe that one course could take a person in one side and after 5 days, 10 days, bring a project manager out of the other side. That just, doesn't work. There's no such magical thing that could happen. It's a process. It's something that takes time and different things that are done in order to be able to really do that and become a good project manager. And when you look at lifelong learning, you start with gaining knowledge, and then you want to turn that knowledge into skills. Skills, when I say skills, I mean the ability to perform on project management tasks. And then it's supposed to become a competence, something that's a combination of skill and knowledge that you can really apply in your day-to-day world. And the question is, how do we do that? How do we turn ourselves from people that have some knowledge about project management into competent project managers? Now, we're not too many people here on the webinar, so if you guys have questions, if you want to ask something, then feel free to stop me and ask questions, because I really want to answer, what you guys want to hear about. And I'm going to go through a lot of different topics. So if there's something you want to hear more about, or you want me to emphasize or explain, please tell me. We're also going to have some time at the end to answer questions, but go ahead and ask questions during this presentation as well. So the first thing you need to do is, as I said, you need to set your own goals. You need to decide what you're trying to achieve when you say you want to learn more about project management. And I want to tell you that no matter how good you are managing projects, there's always something that you can learn. I look at things as that anyone I meet in this profession is somebody that has something, he has at least one thing that I can learn from. I can learn it from what he does, how he speaks, how he treats people, how he gets people to gather around him, a certain report that he uses. It could be anything, but I can learn from anyone that's around me. So I want to set out my own goals and to understand what I'm trying to achieve. So if you're a PMO, you want to set your own goals and to understand what your organization is trying to achieve when they're looking for learning in the project management role. And the second thing that you need to do is kind of set up a roadmap of what you're going to do. Just saying I'm going to do one course in project management, or to go and get a certification like PMP or an APM, a Prince 2 certification, and so on, or even to get a degree in business or whatever of those formal education things that you want. It's a good step, not always necessary. Many times it is necessary, but that is never enough. That's not, the beginning and the end. So even in certifications like that, so the PMP certification, for instance, you need to collect PDUs like we're doing right here in order to be able to keep your certification. Why do we need that? Because you always need to continue learning, okay? So the first thing you want to do is set goals and create a roadmap for ourselves to understand what we're doing and what we're trying to achieve. Now, when I say goals, when you look at training goals for an organization, why they want people to learn is usually one of these reasons over here. So it could be you want to have more motivation for the individuals in your organization, or you want to have better time and cost estimates, and that they'll be more reliable, and so on. So I'm not going to go through all of these, but you understand the point. You need to understand why you're doing something and what you're trying to achieve. So let's say I'm within a PMO and I decide that I want to go and want to create a lifelong learning journey for the project managers in the organization and maybe for other stakeholders as well. And so I set out this roadmap and then I kick it off. I start by telling everybody about what we're going to do. We talk about the journey. We talk about what people are going to be experiencing throughout the year. Then we have different stepping stones here. So I talked about formal education a little bit, and that would be your certifications and your degrees and so on. But other than the formal education that you can have, there's a lot of different aspects of non-formal training that you can go through, and we're going to go through some examples here during this session, and some informal training, some adaptive learning things that we can go through. And then there's also on-the-job training. And we'll talk about some aspects of on-the-job training. So throughout the journey, you need to make sure that you're controlling the journey all the time. So not only do you set up on a roadmap, you need to check yourself and make sure that you're moving in the right direction. So if you're a PMO and you had a goal of having more reliable estimates from your project managers, so after you do certain aspects of your roadmap, you need to go circle back and see, have you achieved what you're trying to do? Okay. Are you achieving better satisfaction from your project managers because you have this new process, or you have a roadmap of doing things? Any questions so far? Don't see anything here in the chat. Nobody is unmuting and asking. So should I just assume that there's no questions? Okay, so we'll do that. So the first thing that we have within the realm of the non-formal training and informal training, you have self-study and reflection. So let's look at this and try to understand what this means. So as an individual, I can go to different sources on the internet, and I could buy courses like places like Udemy, Coursera, other sites by partners that have their own courses and things. So that's something that I could both set up as an organization for my project managers and other people that are involved in projects, or as an individual, I can go and do that stuff. Another thing that I could set up, and I don't see a lot of organizations do this, but you could go ahead and have individuals from your own company record sessions on certain topics related to project management, and then put it in a repository of your own organization. And then you can have knowledge be sustained within that organization. So if you have somebody that is really good in cost estimates, and he has a certain way of doing things which really helps him in your industry, you could ask him to record 10 minutes, 15-minute session on how he does things, and then allow others to come in and see that kind of information. And by the way, if you're trying to promote yourself within your organization, you could just record some things that you think you're really good at, put it out there on a platform that you have within your organization, and allow people to go in and view it, give you feedback, and learn from what you're good at, okay? Other things that we could do as individuals, we can go ahead and read articles, we can read books on the subject. So there's really a lot of things that we could do to promote ourselves. Going back to the map here, the next thing we're going to talk about is more about some group study things and things that we can do as a group. So we could either put together some forums So the PMO can say, let's put together a forum of all people interested in the project management section, or just the project managers, however you want to put it together. And you can have sessions where you remind people about effective meetings. Okay, how do I run effective meetings? Or different things that have things to do with your project management system and so on. So there are a lot of different things you can do around that. You can write and present different lessons learned to the different community members. You can go through case studies. So you can both write case studies and go through things, because when you have really big success, or if you have a big failure, then many times writing it down and having the next generations be able to learn from it is a really great thing for yourself. You could have tips and tricks for using your tools. And the last thing that maybe not too many of you have heard about, you can put together what we call a whisper program. And what is a whisper program? So I'm guessing that a lot of you have heard about microlearning. That's when you take a topic, a very small topic, and you create like a mini informational video or a pamphlet or just a one-page reader on that subject. It could be about, I don't know, what are stakeholders, or what is a project success, and so on and so forth. So we're talking about not only learning in small bites, but also creating some kind of call for action for the project managers within the organization. So imagine this scenario. You're a PMO within an organization, and you want people to continue learning while time goes by, or you want to remind them of things that you've learned in different courses and so on. So imagine you set up a system where every week or every 2 weeks, whatever you decide, you send them what is called a whisper. A whisper is a call for action. An example would be, if you send a whisper to a project manager and you tell him, make sure that you've recognized all your stakeholders for the project and that you have a good communication plan to talk to them. So one person can say, I don't really remember, I'm not sure I remember what stakeholders exactly are and who could be a stakeholder. So you can send them through that same email to a piece of information. Again, it could be a video, it could be an article, it could be a website that explains who stakeholders could be in your organization. And then based on that, I'll go ahead and I need to do something with that information. So for instance, if you look at this map over here, this is how we set up whisper programs within organizations. We send a whisper out to the recipients. These could be either only the project managers or the project managers and the managers of project managers. When the recipients get a message, they need to acknowledge that they got it. So they send an email back saying, yes, I got this message. And then they have to respond to the whisper. So sometimes the response could be an email saying, these are my stakeholders, this is what I'm doing with each one of them. If I have this documented, I could just send that document and talk about it. Or it could also be, you have to go to your manager. Me as a project manager, I go to my manager and I talk to him about my stakeholders. So if I have a weekly meeting with him, I go and I say, hey, I got this whisper. The manager would have also got the same whisper that week saying, talk to your project managers and make sure they know who their stakeholders are. You understand? So it comes from both ways. And that way you continuously make sure that people are learning in your organization. Now, when we do this, we also create a scoreboard so everybody knows that they're getting scored on this. And we create like a fun game for the project managers to see who could gained the most amount of points. You give them points for acknowledging that they got a whisper, and then for acting upon it, and then reporting. If they have something interesting to report that they found, then they get bonus points. I can tell you, give you an example of something kind of funny that happened to us in one of the organizations we were working with. We sent out a whisper saying, please tell your manager, make sure that your manager understands what the goal of your project is. Now that sounds really trivial, right? And we didn't think too much about it, but the fact of the thing was that one of the project managers came to his manager and said, the goal of my project obviously is to reduce the cost of what we're making. And his manager looked at him and said, no, that's not why we're doing it. It's definitely a side effect of what we're doing. But the whole thing started because we had to change the material of a nozzle from one thing to another because of problems that we were having with it. So the project manager is in there thinking he's trying to do a cost reduction, which is, a byproduct. It's great that they can do it, but that was not the goal of what he was trying to do. So this is the Whisper program. This is an example of a roadmap for different whispers that you can put together. And, when you dive into one of them, then you can go in and see a lot of information about it. So does anyone have any questions about whispers and micro-learning units and how you can set that up in your organization? Okay, so the next thing we'll talk about, within the things that you can do in order to increase the learning in your organization and to promote yourself and get, to be better at your job, you can play different games. And, I started this with my kids. I have 3 kids that, I've been playing games with for many years, board games and other games. And I find that when I'm playing games with my kids, I get to know them better. I get to know more about them. I know about their thought process, about their beliefs, and I can also help them learn things while we're playing. Okay. So I like playing games, and I think it's a really great tool to use within organizations as well. It's really fun to see. This is something that Samutala and myself do all the time, and it's really fun to see the different people and how they react to having played games. So one of the games that is pretty well known around the world is the Marshmallow Challenge. And I don't know how many of you have heard about it, but if you haven't heard about it, then you can go into YouTube, type in the Marshmallow Challenge, and you'll see what it is. It's basically when you get together a group of project managers in a room, you give them spaghetti, and you give them a marshmallow and string. And the challenge there is for them to build a tower, the highest tower that they can build within a certain amount of time, with having a marshmallow on the top of the tower. Okay, so it's really interesting to play and do. And it is kind of like a project because you have a certain goal, you have set time, set constraints, and so on. We have a different version of that game, which I'll tell you about in a minute. And there are other games, and I'll walk through a few of these games so you know about these and you could use them within your organization. So in our game, it's similar to the Marshmallow Challenge, but it's not exactly the same. We divide the people in the room into a couple of groups, and every group has 20 minutes to build the highest tower with the materials that we provide them. And they have certain rules. So we tell them, when you finish building, what we're going to do, we're going to rock the chair twice, okay, to see if it still stands. And everything you build has to be on the chair, it has to be on the surface of the chair, starting there. And the one that's highest is the one that's going to win. Okay. And then we have different materials that they get when they start out. They also, every group also gets money that they can buy other materials. We have a shop at the head of the class, and people can choose what materials they want to use, what they want to buy. And then they have to start building, and they're building as a team, obviously, trying to get this as high as possible so they'll win the challenge. And while they're playing, things happen. Things like I'd go to one of the people in one of the groups and say, I'm sorry, you're sick now. You have to go out on sick leave. So he leaves the group. Many times I do that with somebody that's very dominant in the group. And then the group has to continue without them. So kind of simulate things that happen in real life. You know, things change. Things don't always go as planned. And you still have to reach your goals. So this is one of the games that we play in organizations. And the magic really happens after the game. The game is not the purpose of it. It's just a way of doing things, right? So we play the game and then we hold discussions about things that happen within the game. And that's, what we really are looking for. And there is where we can talk about communication between the team members or anything that we think is interesting there, we could talk about at that point. Another thing that we do with organizations and that you could do in order to learn more about project management is play board games. So this is one example of a board game. It's called the project management game. And I'm going to run a video now that you guys can watch and see what it looks like playing this game within an organization. So let's just go right here and open this up. Excuse me for this. This is taking a second. We'll go here and here we go. So what we see here is a classroom, and you can see myself and Shamatal standing in front of a class of people, explaining the rules of the game, telling them exactly what they're going to have to do during this lesson or during this game. And then every participant will get his own project, which he needs to first plan and then execute within the game. So we walk around, we allow people to plan their tasks. Every person gets money, resources, a page with their own tasks. Every project is different than the other project, but they're all working towards the same program. So everyone sitting around one table here is part of the same program. So can you imagine yourself sitting in a room with your peers? You have, 12, 18 project managers in your organization, maybe less, and they're all playing the same game, trying to achieve goals in their project. And what's really cool is when you're done, when you finish with this, and you actually finish playing the game, then you have really cool interactions there, and you can talk about a lot of different things. We talk about project planning. How important was it for you guys to plan at the beginning? Did you work according to your plan, or didn't you work according to your plan? And then based on that, what does that mean in our real life? Do we think that we're planning well enough our own projects? So again, the game is only a trigger. It's also a team building kind of event and force, and we have fun together and all of that, but it's a trigger for some really great conversation that people can have. And it's going to be much more open than other conversations, because it's a conversation that talks about the game, not about our real life, right? It's something that I did in the game, and I can say maybe I made a mistake there, and it's not something that I'm very close to. Excuse me. So it makes for really great discussions afterwards. Here are some pictures from some other seminars that we've done with organizations. Really great stuff. This game is also available as a digital game. So you can also play this game online. And then you can also get a score, see how well you manage your projects, and get feedback on your abilities as a project manager, again, through a fun simulation and not just through managing your real projects day to day. Another game that you could play is what we call the PM Zone Agile simulation board game. And we put together a scenario, when people talk about Scrum and Agile, they think about basically software programs or IT programs. So we put together a different kind of scenario for that. This is actually building a resort for a bed and breakfast in a place. And you have different epics there. One is building the spa, one is building a tree house. Another epic is building the guest room. You have sitting area, a barbecue area, dining area, and so on. And what people need to do when they're going through this, excuse me. Oh, lost my presentation here. So I'm going to go back over here. Sorry about that. And then, so you get cards, and as a team, as the Agile team, you have to go through the different epics. And the epic could be like building the guest room. So as a guest, I would like to have a safe in the room. Is that very important to me? Is that more important than having a bed in my guest room? So you can kind of put yourself in a situation where you're planning out a sprint, but just in a different kind of scenario and not within a software development kind of mode. So you see all your epics, and then you have to plan out your sprints according to the size and the value. You decide what the priority is going to be. You can decide if you're going to, this is the first sprint, I only do one epic, or am I going to take different epics are different colors here. So am I going to take different user stories from different epics and run them together because I want to create value in that way? So just another really fun way of running a project. So in the first sprint, everybody you have 4 players in the team, and everyone will put their own cards, the user stories that they decided to do in their turn. Every team member gets their own velocity points. So everyone gets 12 velocity points, and then they start playing, and they play together. So what they do is they throw the dice and they move forward. Whenever you stand on a white square here, what you can do now, you can move your card, your user story into doing, and then you take 1 velocity point out of there. And then the next player will throw the dice, and he'll move another, of his user stories and move that forward. So the first time we play the game, or the first sprint we play the game, we allow people to play one after another, but the game in the next sprint is going to be much faster when people are going to play concurrently, like you do in real life in Agile. You play in the same time, or you move forward at the same time. And when events happen, you talk to the team. So for instance, if you land here on something purple, you pick up an event card and you do whatever it tells you, but you have to read that out loud to the whole team. And you have a sprint of 9 minutes. You have different things that you need to do during the sprint and when it ends. Here's how you plan out your sprint. You see what you planned initially. And when you finish the sprint, you see what you actually did and what you're moving into the next sprint, and so on. So, excuse me, you have all of this information in front of you. And again, you're playing a fun game, and you're learning while you're playing, okay? So we have different daily events within that sprint. And when you finish a daily event, your scrum master who sits with you at the table will take score and see how many points, how many velocity points you actually worked on, and you get all that information so you can plan your sprints next time better. So this reminds you of all the ceremonies in Agile. If you know them, if you don't know them, then this will teach you what these ceremonies are all about. And it's really a great stepping stone, both for organizations that want to learn about Agile, want to practice it, or are really deep into it, but they want to remind themselves of the principle and why they're doing things. Okay? Any questions so far? Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about are other things that people can do in order to learn, things like field tours and expert meetings. So you have in many countries and many different places, you have monthly meetings, either the PMI, APM. You can go to worldwide conferences or local conferences. You can go to meetups, or you can set up meetups. You can go to webinars like this and try to learn something new, maybe something that you can implement within your organization. Another way of learning is something that I've experienced in different organizations, is what we call mentoring and work shadowing. So in some organizations, they have a mentoring program where every new employee, or any employee, for that matter, has a mentor within the organization who's usually a level or 2 levels above him in the organizational chart. And they can meet with them once a month, once every 2 months, to discuss things and to have them as a mentor, to explain how things work, what they should do in many cases, and so on. Some organizations like Intel, who I've worked for, have a buddy system where new employees, for the first 6 months of their work time, they have somebody from within their group who is considered their buddy, and he's the one that's supposed to help them set themselves up, help with some information systems, help with things trivial like lunch and so on. So again, learning from things that already happen in the organization from somebody that has more experience than you. Some organizations have a shadow program where somebody would shadow another more experienced person for a day or for half a day to see what they do, and maybe to learn from the way that they handle their own day, to see their good habits and to understand how it looks like from another person's point of view. So these are all things that you can set up in your organization, or you could just ask for, you can just go to somebody in your organization and ask them to be your mentor within that organization and so forth. So a lot of things you can do there. So what I encourage you guys to do is, first of all, go ahead and set goals for yourself for your learning process. You have to understand what you're trying to achieve, and based on that, put together a roadmap of how you want to better yourself within your profession. The next thing, you need to kind of choose what kind of techniques you want to use. You don't have to use everything I talked about. Choose the things that work for you with your organization and stick to that and try to reach your goal. Then you create your own roadmap, plan for, for your different things that you want to do, and then go ahead and make sure you execute it, you track what you're doing, and you make sure it works for you. And if it doesn't work for you, make sure you adjust it to work towards your goals, because that's what we're basically trying to do. So having said that, that's a lot of what I wanted to say today. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer it. Leo, did you get any questions on the chat or somewhere?
Not yet. Wonderful session, Daniel. Here's Suil Santiago from Puerto Rico. Excellent games. Where can we achieve them?
Okay, great. So yeah, you can, some of the games are just out there, like the Marshmallow Challenge I said. You can just go to YouTube, type it in and get it. Other games that I presented here, you can find on our website. So if you go to PMZone.com over here, you can find these games. What we offer is train the trainer sessions. So you could actually run these games with your peers in your organization, and you don't need to call me to come over and do the games for you. So we'll teach you how to run the games, we'll send you the games, and you can play them within your organization. So if you want, you can contact me. This is my email here, and we can talk about that after the session.
Awesome.
Yeah, I see there's another question here. Okay.
Sulin, thanks to you, Sulin, for asking. Another more question. Daniel, it's very interesting. When you have mentioned it about Agile, I wonder how could be possible to implement or playing with remote teams, because in Agile currently we are managing remote teams. How can we? It's not so easy, but I think that you have an answer for that. How can we share this game with remote teams?
So right now the game is set up only for playing in person. And the whole idea is to have a team building kind of adventure. But in the future, we are going to be working on the game and making it a digital game. For the other game, for the first game that we've developed, we already have a digital version of the game. So you could also play the game online and get some, learn more about this. So definitely that's a way of doing it.
Okay, we will waiting for some good news, some updated news about this digital platform for playing. Any more questions for the audience? One more question. If we, in the near future, Daniel, we want to learn more about this. Do you have any website with videos, with any other features, any other contents? Where can we find you, or where can we watch it?
So on our website on www.pmzone.com, you have a lot of videos, you have all of our games, and for every game, we have an explanation of who the audience is, what you could gain by playing the game. So you have all that information on our website. And if you want more information, feel free to contact me, and I'll be very happy to give you more information about it. But we really tried to put everything out there, including some user stories and people that played and their testimonials and all that. So really, there's a lot of content there. And if you need any more, you know how to reach me. This is my email over here, and I'll be more than happy to talk to you guys.
Awesome. Congratulations for your book. No, congrats. Okay, this is your website. Okay, maybe for some people who is watching us right now, or maybe in the future with this session recorded, will be interested for digital game. No, because more of us are sharing in the college and universities with project management. Remote classes, no, remote sessions. So maybe in project management master degree could be useful. Who knows? So we are going to keep following you, Daniel, as usual, because we are fans from you and your great work, and happy to see you very, very soon. We will be very, very in touch, watching what are you doing day after day in social media.
That's great. Thank you so much, Leo. Have a great day.
You most welcome. Thank you, Ryan Francisco Javier Dominguez. Most welcome from Madrid. I understood. So greetings from Barcelona. All the best. Have a pretty, very, very good 2023 year, full of success, full of health, and full of business. Have a good business. Greetings from Barcelona. Daniel, see you very soon. Thank you very much for joining us and
Thank
coming and
you.
sharing.
Bye.
Until next time. Ciao, ciao.